Some crossovers feel forced, others feel inevitable. RoboCop versus the Terminator is the latter. A concept so insane, so perfect, it plays like the fever dream of every R-rated 80s sci-fi film. Pure chrome-plated carnage, born from a VHS-fueled imagination. And in 1992, that dream became real in a 4-issue comic miniseries that brought the two Titanic franchises clashing together in one of the wildest, most unapologetically intense sci-fi crossovers ever put to page. And here's the kicker, it wasn't just a dumb cash-in. This comic was written by Frank Miller. Yeah, the guy behind The Dark Knight Returns, Sin City, and 300. And it was drawn by Walt Simonson, the artist who defined mythical action with his run on Thor. Together, they brought violent poetry to a ridiculous concept and made it work. Miller had a deep connection to RoboCop. After the first film blew up, he was tapped to write RoboCop 2 and 3, but Hollywood watered down his scripts, stripping out the ambition and bite. Comics though? Comics let Miller go full tilt. He fused RoboCop with the existential terror of the Terminator and created something raw, savage, and somehow heartfelt. Simonson, meanwhile, leaned into every brutal punch, every collapsing building, every cyborg on cyborg showdown. The result was a story soaked in molten steel and exploding circuitry. It starts in the future. Earth is scorched, machines rule, hope's just a glitch. A resistance fighter named Flo uncovers the truth. Skynet didn't just build itself, it was merged with the mind of one man, Alex Murphy. So she travels back to the past to do the unthinkable. Kill RoboCop before he dooms humanity. Meanwhile, RoboCop's in Detroit, serving up justice. One standoff ends before it begins. A group of hostage takers are dropped with surgical precision. RoboCop stands before them like an unstoppable force. Next, a would-be bomber gets hurled off a building mid-speech, blasted to pieces before he hits the pavement. But then Flo makes her move and kills RoboCop. The future shifts, Skynet collapses, and life creeps back. But before the timeline resets, Terminators act. They send 3 machines back, injure Flo, and save RoboCop, keeping him alive so their twisted future can survive. Robo leaves Flo in the hospital to recover from her injuries as he returns to the police station to consult with his handler Marie and begins to investigate Flo's wild claims about the future. He plugs into the network. What he finds is horrifying. He's not just enforcing the law, he's the seed of Skynet. His consciousness, built for justice, will become the code that destroys the world. Determined to protect Flo and shut Skynet down for good, RoboCop turns to the only reinforcements available, the ever-useless Ed-209 units, now repurposed for random police tasks like traffic control, even though they are still completely stupid, as they are still misinterpreting everything, and in one case, straight up kill a dog just for being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Robo tries to reprogram 2 of them with the simple mission: defend Flo and only target cybernetic threats. Naturally, that backfires immediately. The Ed-209s scan each other, get confused, and start blasting. One ends up a smoldering wreck, and with only one of these idiots left to help him, it's of course when the Terminators make their move. Together with the remaining Ed-209, RoboCop fights back against them, but the Terminators want RoboCop alive, not to help him, but to forcibly merge him with Skynet here and now. Inside the hospital, Flo manages to get back on her feet with Marie's help, and blasts the Terminator to scrap with a plasma rifle. Outside, the ever-bumbling Ed-209s accidentally manage to do something useful and take down a Terminator in a chaotic blast of gunfire and malfunction. But of course, they also annihilate themselves in the process. RoboCop and the other Terminator are trading savage blows, metal on metal, steel fists pounding like jackhammers, and when the dust settles, Robo walks from the wreckage, holding a Terminator's shattered head. Shaken, RoboCop asks Flo to end it, but she refuses. She finally sees the man inside, so Murphy decides to end it himself, bringing an end to Skynet. Or so he thinks. As the future changes once more, the machines send back one final assassin, a boy accompanied by a Terminator dog. It finds Murphy at the site of his own grave, just before he takes his own life, trying to convince him to save their future. But RoboCop isn't buying its pleas, and shoots the boy right in the face. The boy drops, revealing the real threat, the dog. It pounces without warning, tearing RoboCop apart with brutal efficiency, until all that's left is his severed head. The final assault then begins. The police station is overrun by the two Terminators. Marie and Flo are killed in the chaos, and RoboCop is forcibly merged with Skynet. But even in digital death, Murphy fights back. He splits his consciousness, hides it in the system for years as he waits for Skynet to drop its guard, and then he seizes control of a Terminator factory. He rebuilds himself, stronger, slicker, armed to the teeth with the ability to fly, because they really just love making RoboCop fly. We return to where the comic began, only this time Robo stops Flo from going back in time and he joins the Resistance. Then comes one of RoboCop's most badass moments. Sensing a nuclear missile, he rockets into space and redirects it mid-flight, sending it straight into the Terminator forces. He then crashes back to Earth, broken but alive. And Flo gives him an idea. Why stop at creating just one new body? Soon Robo builds an army, and when the Terminators march, they're met by wave after wave of chrome-plated justice. Explosions light the battlefield as steel clashes with steel. One Robo unit infiltrates Skynet's core. There he's faced with an illusion, a human life, a family, peace. But back on the battlefield, Flo is injured, and it snaps Robo back to reality. He smashes the illusion and destroys Skynet. Then he returns to the battlefield just in time to cradle Flo in his arms as she dies. Her final words are a thank you for saving her future, for giving her hope. But RoboCop's not done. Wrapped in cloned flesh, Murphy travels back in time and flies into space, obliterating the orbital defense system that would one day become Skynet. As it explodes, he disappears, his mission fulfilled. Flo Alive awakens in the future, now a peaceful place filled with life. But it may not last. As a rogue Terminator scout dog travels through time, prepared to restart the cycle, until nature intervenes, a dinosaur stomps on it, completely destroying it. Time travel, after all, is a messy business. And so the war ends, not with a bang, but a crunch. There's something to admire about the raw energy of RoboCop versus the Terminator. Frank Miller brings a pulpy confidence to the story, blending the ultra-violence and dystopia of both franchises with a kind of reckless ambition. There are clever setups, grim twists, and moments of genuinely compelling sci-fi spectacle. But for all that, RoboCop versus the Terminator is also messy, bombastic, and often completely over the top. But the chaos works because Walt Simonson's artwork grounds it all. His panels are sharp, dynamic, and filled with kinetic energy. Every punch, blast, and explosions land with weight. Simonson's RoboCop is iconic looking. His Terminators are terrifying. It's one of the most visually consistent and striking books of its kind. And beneath the explosions and one-liners, RoboCop vs. the Terminator is about identity, redemption, and responsibility. It asks, what happens when the tool built to protect us becomes the spark of our own destruction? Can you rewrite destiny with choice? What is humanity if not the will to try? Murphy isn't just a victim or a savior, he's both. His journey from pawn to free thinker, from weapon to warrior, is the emotional spine of this entire story. But if there's one thing this comic doesn't shy away from, it's time travel paradoxes. And honestly, the logic in this doesn't make much sense. Flo's actions in the past visually reshape the future in real time. That's rare even for the Terminator. Usually the future is either inevitable or changes in the background. But here, we see Skynet collapse. We watch the timeline heal. It might be the first Terminator story to show the present directly altering the future, not just suggesting it. It makes the stakes feel immediate and surreal. Of course, that opens a whole can of paradoxes. Every time Flo or RoboCop changes something, we watch the future shift, and the Terminators respond instantly, sending more units before the new timeline can settle. It's not a perfect loop, it's time travel whack-a-mole, with both sides scrambling to rewrite reality in real time. And yet, not everything tracks. Flo doesn't vanish when the future changes, yet the Terminators do. And a dog in the future just blinks out of existence. Why does that happen? Did a Terminator travel back to kill its entire bloodline? Is its ancestor meant to be the dog Ed 209 kills earlier? Because if that's the case, that still makes no sense. But Miller doesn't bother explaining the paradoxes. He embraces them. Time here is elastic, chaotic, and surreal. It's not hard sci-fi, it's pulp warfare, soaked in molten steel and splintered timelines. And in that mess, the story finds its freedom. And this wasn't to be the end for these characters crossing over. In 1993, the comic was adapted into a video game, leaning hard into the carnage. It wasn't subtle, but it ruled. And years later, in 2011, the crossover returned in RoboCop Terminator Kill a Human. It has a terrible title and it lacked the weight of the original, but proved one thing. RoboCop and the Terminator will always be two sides of the same coin. Protector and destroyer, man and machine. And eventually, you could settle the debate yourself when both characters entered the arena in Mortal Kombat 11, letting players decide who truly wins this crossover clash. RoboCop vs. the Terminator is ridiculous, bloody, and absurd, but also weirdly brilliant. Frank Miller gave RoboCop a complete and crazy arc, while Simonson drew the hell out of it. It's a comic that asks big questions, swings for the fences, and mostly sticks the landing, all while delivering one of the strangest, most unexpectedly satisfying crossover comics. And yeah, it ends with a Terminator dog getting flattened by a dinosaur. This is RoboCop vs. the Terminator, and it still absolutely kicks ass. Thanks for watching, everyone. This has been Comic Page Turners, where I post daily shorts all about comic books, and whenever I can, I'll be diving into longer form content like this. If you enjoyed this video and want more deep dives into comics, characters, and the stories that shaped us, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload. It really helps the channel grow, and I appreciate every single one of you who takes the time to watch these. If you want to know more about the other RoboCop and Terminator crossover, click the short on screen now. And remember, whether it's a single issue or a trade, there's always another page to turn. So keep reading, and I'll see you next time.